Raquel, and welcome back to another Mexico Monday. For those of you who I have not had the privilege of meeting yet, I am Dr. Raquel, and what I do is I help people who want to live their best life abroad. And so Mexico Monday is a way for me to share with all of you what I did, all the things that I learned along the way, all the things that I knew, all the things that I wish that I knew about obtaining my Mexican residency. So if this is your first time, welcome. For y'all that are back, welcome to y'all too. And today I want to just share a little bit about Mexico. So if you are new, between my husband and I, we have moved abroad to 6 different countries. And so we have navigated the visa process in all of those locations. And so we most recently obtained our Mexican residency. And with any visa residency process, the first thing I want you to know is it is not like a step-by-step process. It's not like you finish step 1, and then you move on to step 2, and then you move on to step 3. More than likely, you will be doing like steps 1, 2, and 3 all at the same time, which is the part that is very overwhelming, especially about the visa process. And so just take it chunk by chunk. You can do it, but it is a lot to kind of manage all at the same time. And one piece of that as well, specifically for Mexico, is deciding whether or not you will move forward with an immigration facilitator. Excuse me. So, an immigration facilitator for Mexico is a person that helps you through the visa process. They can help you, like most of the time they're actually in Mexico. They can help you with the visa process as well. I didn't have anyone help us with the visa process, but they did help us in Mexico with the temporary residence process. And so it's my understanding that they also can help with the visa, kind of letting you know what you need, the documents, all the things, all the requirements based on the intel that they are receiving. And so I did not utilize a facilitator for the visa process. We did that piece on our own, which I shared with y'all last time. But we did have a facilitator for the boots on the ground in Mexico. And to give some context to that, an immigration facilitator, they can help you kind of with the application process. They can help you know what it is that you need to do, what it is that you need to bring. They can be with you like the day of. They can't go in with you, of course, but they can like show up the day of your appointments to make sure that you have everything and know everything that you need to do. So they can be a super helpful resource. I went back and forth. Like we were like to have a facilitator, to not have a facilitator. I do speak Spanish, so I'm like, okay, it's an application. It's in Spanish. There's also Google Translate for the things that I don't know. So we should be able to like figure this out. And so by page number 2 of that application, I was like, facilitator, please and thank you. And I am very grateful that we did. We found an awesome facilitator. So if it is something that you are considering, let me know. I can put you in contact with the facilitator that we used. He was great. And I asked lots of questions. So he was always like very patient. And a lot of things went back and forth. Because as many of you know, the price of temporary residence doubled as of January 1st, and our residencies expired January 31st. And so we were trying to see if we could get to Mexico before the prices doubled. We could not, so we just had to pay that good doubled of a price. But he was very helpful through all of it. And even like confirming, are these prices really doubling? And he was like, oh yeah, they're doubling for sure. So, just going through the process, having someone who was there, who was an expert in this whole, like, on the ground in Mexico, was very helpful, because what I learned after receiving our visa, when I was like, okay, my mind can now begin to process, what do I do when I get to Mexico? I bought my tickets, like, we're doing this, so what do I need to know? And it was so overwhelming, because there were so many things that could make your visas null and void. So for example, like you land in Mexico and you go in the regular US people line, so the tourist line versus the Mexican line. That can void out your visa. So if you get a stamp in your passport that says that you are visiting Mexico, you are a tourist, you no longer have a visa. You will have to start the process all over again. And so just if you land in Mexico, some airports have like, a lot of things are, they are now digitized. So a lot of airports have like these digital scanners. Let's say you land at an airport in Mexico, you check in through one of these digital scanners instead of going to an actual person, an immigration officer. Guess what that would do? Void out your visa and you would have to start all over again. So after learning about all these errors that I can make that were very easy to make in the process of like trying not to void out our visa, we decided we're just going to go ahead with a facilitator. And even like right before our flight, like, gave him our information, gave him our flight information, paid our deposit. And then even before like our flight, he was like, okay, remember to do these things. And then once you get in, like send me a picture of these things. And so it's very nerve-wracking because this is like a person who you don't know, like you're sending them money, And so that is why it is so important to find a person who has some track record and some credibility. There are scammers out here in these streets, and all facilitators are not created equal. I have talked to people who had facilitators, still had to pay extra money, still had to do extra things, and it was trash. And so I'm very grateful for the facilitator that we had. And again, I can put you in contact if that's something that you're looking for. And so we ultimately moved forward with a facilitator. And this is what I'd like to most importantly share with you all about facilitators. I realized after the fact, super important. I did not know this before, but it is super important that you have a facilitator that has some type of like relationship with the office that you're going to. So what was really helpful is we got to the office, which the office is outside. And so like, if you're not within the first like 6 to 8 people, you're actually in the waiting room outside. And so we were the first people. My husband does not play these games, so we got there very early. We were like an hour plus before they opened. So we were the first people in line, but also like our facilitator got there and he was like there with every person who was not Mexican. Any non-Mexican who was at that office was there with him. And so I was like, oh, okay, we picked the right person. And so they opened up the doors. They knew who he was. We had some things that we kind of had to prepare. Obviously, the application, copies, all those things. So he helped with all of that, ensuring that we knew what to do, what to have, what the process was going to be like, how to pay for the things, like what I needed to in order to be able to pay. Can I use a Visa? Can I use a debit card? Do I have to use a credit card? What type, things like that, where otherwise you really would just have to be prepared for every possible scenario because you don't know what it's going to be. And so having someone who could be like, I know this process, like you'll be fine. It'll be fine. Because the visa like appointment is super nerve-wracking, and then being there to be like, okay, let me into your country is also super nerve-wracking. Those are like, I think, the most nerve-wracking pieces of the whole process. And so having someone else there who it's like, these people already know, they already know the process, they already know what he's going to do, they already know what we're going to do. It just made it a lot more like calming to know like I have someone here who can advocate for me. And it was great. It was great because there were also pieces that we were supposed to have that we were like, I was like, I didn't do that. And then she'd be able to be like, tell him what needed to happen, and then he could help. And so it was just listen, if I could do it again, I would do it again. That should let you know how I feel about it. So again, if you get an immigration facilitator, if you are going into the Merida area, I can help you. If you are moving outside of Merida, if you're going to Puerto Morelos area, I can also help you find a facilitator there. But if you are going elsewhere in Mexico, you are considering a facilitator, make sure that it is a reputable person who has helped lots of other people. Don't work with a facilitator where it's their first time facilitating. Okay? I cannot be an immigration facilitator in Mexico, period. I don't know the people, I don't know the process, I don't know the things. I've been through the process, sure, but that doesn't mean I can do it. So you want to make sure that you are working with someone who will be helpful and who will not be a liability, because a liability means you're starting over. A liability means you're paying for everything again. A liability means you are now leaving Mexico and having to come back into Mexico. That's another round trip ticket. If you're a family of 1, 2, 3, 4, that's time with whatever that number is. So these mistakes can be super costly, which is why I was like, okay, pay a facilitator up front or pay for everything else should I mess this up and have to do this all over again. And so that's what I wanted to share with you all today. Just the process of kind of, and how I got my facilitator. I did also want to share that with you. So what I did was I don't even remember what I think I was like Googling, what is a facilitator? There is one woman who like gives Mexican resources who I use a lot, just in terms of like, okay, she gives real-time updates. She's the first person who shared that the price was doubling. And so like she had resources on like, what is a facilitator? And then I was like, okay, where do we want to go for this? Where is there a possibility of getting a residency appointment at the Canje without having to possibly wait 3 weeks? Because I know people who got there, because what we were told, I'll back up a second. What we were told when we received our visas was you don't need an appointment, you don't need any paperwork, you get to Mexico and they'll give you your residency cards. If you are told that, that is incorrect. That is what I was told. It is incorrect. You have to schedule an appointment at the Canje. The Canje means exchange, and basically that is what you are doing at the immigration office is Canje. And so you need to have a Canje appointment at an immigration office in Mexico after receiving your visa. Okay? So once you do that, you have to schedule an appointment. Now, first, even scheduling an appointment was difficult, which is when I was like, I need a facilitator. But there are places that you can go to without an appointment, but I also could not get a clear understanding of where those were. It is on the Mexican government website, but where I was trying to go, I could not determine if there was a place available, which there was 20 minutes away from where I was looking. Without a facilitator, I would not have known that. And it can take up to 3 weeks for you to receive an appointment. And so I know people who got to Mexico, planned to be there for 2 weeks, landed only to realize they had to make an appointment, and then their return flight was before they were able to get an appointment date. And so a fiasco can happen. And so it is important that you understand that you do need an appointment in Mexico for most immigration offices. There are some that do not require appointments, but again, it may be difficult to identify which offices those actually are. And so I was able to go to one without an appointment because my facilitator told me about it. And so, again, another way that facilitators can be a huge help and resource. So, so that's what I wanted to share with you all about an immigration facilitator. Again, if you need help, let me know. Head over to my website, www.bestlifeabroad.com, and I'd be happy to help you. And in the meantime, keep pushing towards Mexico. You got this, one step at a time. One step at a time moves you forward. One step at a time gets you done. And eventually that step is the last one. So you got it. All right. I'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.